Hello, my name is Ashley and I'm a student at United High School in rural Monmouth, Illinois. I am conducting an interview for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress in the Illinois World War II Veterans Classroom Project. Today is April 19th, 2011, and with me today is Mr. Robert Venard of Monmouth, Illinois. Welcome, Mr. Venard. Could you please take a minute and tell us about yourself?
Yep, they keep it here.
That's okay.
My name is Robert J. Venard. Date of birth, June 27th, 1926. I served in World War II from 1944 to 1946. In the U.S. Navy, and the highest rank I achieved was Seaman First Class Gunner's Mate.
Can you please tell us a little bit about your childhood? About your childhood when you grew up?
My childhood?
Yes.
I was born in Monmouth. My dad was a railroader on the M and St. L. And along come the Depression. So they laid off a lot of people, among them was him. So we moved north of Monmouth, where Burns's auction place is now. And we lived there for 2 years. I started school at country school, one-room country school, law school. And we moved, after my second year, we moved 2 miles, let's see, a mile east and 6/10 of a mile north. We lived there for 4 years. So I went 6 years at law school. Then we moved back to town in 1939. I went to Willett School, 7th grade, and then I went to junior high, the old junior high building, and then went to high school, Monmouth High School, for 4 years. Well, the war started in between times there. I was a sophomore in high school then. Couldn't wait to get graduated. I wanted to go like everybody. So, June 3rd, for graduation day, the recruiter for the Navy was at the post office in Monmouth there. And I went up, joined the Navy. Day after graduation, I was on the bus for Springfield.
Bob, I think you should tell them about your first shot you ever had.
Yeah. So, I've never ever had a needle stuck in me in my life before that. So, went into where you had to go. They gave you tickets to go on the bus to Springfield, report to a certain address at the store building that was took over by the Navy. And they went, there was a lot of people. It was a record number of people there that day too, from all over the state. So they took a blood test. Took that blood out of your arm, put a piece of cotton on and said, go stand in line there. And they'll take your vitals. Next thing I knew, I woke up looking into the face of a pharmacist mate, pulled me over along the wall. He said, you sat there a while. So, anyway, got our physicals and sent us back home for 5 days. And then we went back down and they put us on a train, took us up to the Great Lakes. And that's where I had my boot camp. And in boot camp, they give you all kind of aptitude tests and decide what they want to train you up for. So, I didn't get what I wanted. They gave you 3 options what you wanted to be. And gunner's mate was my third option, which that's what they give you. Sent me and whoever else was people I didn't know out of my boot company. By the way, there was one other, one of my buddies from high school was in my company for boot camp. That was a 4-month boot camp. So then we went back up to the Great Lakes after a furlough to go home, and sent us to Farragut, Idaho for a gunner's mate school. And that was in October. Stayed there for 4 months in gunner's mate school, and Farragut, Idaho was mountains everywhere you looked. And there was a huge pond, they called it Lake Pond Array. Huge lake out. Wintertime, wasn't any worse winter than we have. And our liberty was Spokane, Washington. So after 4 months there, we graduated out of gunner's mate school, and they sent us to California to a camp called Camp Shoemaker. There was a bunch of barracks. It was there probably 5 days, and then they took us over to Treasure Island, which is in San Francisco Bay. I think we was there about a good month, and that was debarkation point. So you had to check the draft list every morning, see if you was on draft. And I got acquainted with a lot of the guys who were there then, I mean on our barracks. They was all, seemed like there were a lot of gunner's mates. So finally our draft day came, and they put us on a ferry, took us over to the dock, San Francisco, and that's where we made Liberty, San Francisco, quite a few times. Took us over to the dock, unloaded off one side into this dock and up the gangplank. And it was a ship. It was about 2 years old. It was a troop ship. You called the USS General Robert L. House. There's about 3,500 or 4,000 troops on it. From there, we headed overseas. Also, there's about 50 women Coast Guards on their spars. Took them over to Hawaii, and they dropped them off. Then we went to Aniwetok. It was a atoll. Later on, they bombed it with the atomic bomb after the war was over. Then we went to Ulithi, and from Aniwetok we picked up a couple of troop ships with probably Army personnel, because we could see that all their uniforms looked like they was khaki, and we had a couple of escorts. It took us, excuse me. So we went to Samar in the Philippines, and it was a big distribution base where you were reassigned. They call it reassignment base. Thousands of men there, Navy men. So you reported every morning for roll call, and if you didn't have nothing else to do, you went over and watched the B-29s come in off there. So finally we got some lieutenant junior grade showed up one morning, roll call, and called off about 50 of our names, gunner's mates. He says, they're going to board, sorry. Said they're going to invade Borneo, and you're assigned to a Naval Advanced Base Unit. That's what they said, it's Naval Advanced. So one of the guys says, we're gunner's mates, we wanted to be on a ship. He said, we'll give you a gun. You'll have a gun. So they took us, put us on LST and took us to an island just above New Guinea called Mortai. And that was a staging area for this invasion. And there were about 6,000 Australians there, plus different American units. What our base was supposed to be was naval support for the Australians, and that's what we did. So we was there probably a month, 5 weeks, and they decided they wanted to invade there July 1st, 1945. So, anyway, they loaded us on LSTs and a big invasion fleet, and we headed for Borneo. And when we got there, things were going hot and heavy. Well, they bombed this place. There was just unbelievable amount of damage there where we bombed. It was a big town at one time. It was an oil port. And they produced a lot of oil. So that's why the Japanese took it shortly after Pearl Harbor. They just went in there and so we sat out there on that LST for 3 days, hoping to get to shore. Finally, the Aussies got everything cleared, and we pulled into the beach when the tide was right, about 5 o'clock one evening. Well, naturally, me and about 15, 16 others got called up for, they had the CBs went off with their bulldozers and leveled off a spot, and we started unloading the LSTs. We didn't, I mean, we put us on guard duty on this supply dump. So that's where we were till they got settled and the CBs built our camp. And it was scary. We was there. They tell us stories even to make sure we was on, you know, alert. So finally, they got our camp built, and we moved up on the hill, and about that time they dropped the atomic bomb. And the war ended, except the Japs didn't know it. And it was a long time before they finally, well, it was September, October before they finally come in. And they built a big compound and brought the Japanese that surrendered in. And we take out 5 or 6 Japanese with an interpreter, made them clean up the stuff. It was originally a village. They call it a European village, the Dutch. It was a Dutch possession. So we were there for 8 months. And February 46, they couldn't get enough ships to haul passengers back home. They wanted to get people back home and discharged. So they sent they had a small aircraft carrier, what they call a CVE, and they put bunks in the hangar deck, 5 high, thousands of bunks. And they started picking up these small bases with that ship. It was USS Attu. So they picked us up, along with a lot of the Australians that were there, and we headed down through the Macassar Straits, went down to Sydney, Australia. And we had 5 days liberty down there. Then we come back to Pearl Harbor. Well, being late arrivals in the service, they discharged people on the point system. So, Big Sheriff, I was only 19 years old. We hadn't had enough time in and everything. If you was married, you got so many points, and if you was been in so long, you got so many points. Well, our points weren't up, so when we got to Pearl Harbor, we got off, and the guys were ready to come home got home. So I got signed to me and a bunch of my buddies got signed to the submarine base, and I went into the gun shop. We was there for 3 months. Finally, our turn came, and they brought us home, and about the only welcome we got was big signs out in San Francisco Bay, welcome home. We got home and picked up our life where it left off, and I went to work as a apprentice carpenter. They were building a dormitory there in Monmouth College, 2 dormitories. So I got a job as apprentice carpenter. I was intending to go on to college education, but I figured, what's a person like me? We were poor people. We didn't have nothing. Got that job, and $1.25 was the top wage for a carpenter. Well, they started me off at 90 cents an hour. A week later, he gave me a nickel raise. Well, that was good money. And we got a lot of overtime because they was kind of pushing it. And I don't need to go to college. I want to be a carpenter. That's what, right or wrong, that's what I did. So that's about really the story of it, I guess.
Did you receive any medals or honors for your time in the service?
Just the general medals that were issued. Yeah, they got them in that office there.
And can you tell us what our country means to you? Can you tell us what our country means to you?
This is where I was born and raised. This is where my parents, well, my grandparents come over here from Sweden, and my dad's, they've been here a long time. This is my country, our country, you kids' country. Sometimes I look at it and think, what's going on? What's going on in the last 65 years since I've come home? I hope the future's brighter than what my observation will be for it. My kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, this is their land. Some of the stuff that's happening, our government don't seem to be concerned about. I don't like. Maybe I'm a, what they call Archie Bunker. But I don't like some of the stuff that's been going on, is going on. This is our country, you kids. That's what I think about. I'm proud of our country. It's a young country, but we're supposed to take on the burdens of the rest of the world. The people that's running our country, they aren't doing my wishes. They're sitting there doing nothing. Maybe I'm a radical in my thoughts. Probably am. Can't help it, the way I feel. I'd do anything for our country. That's the thoughts of most of the veterans in World War II.
Can I get you a cup of coffee or a glass of water or anything? Would you like?
No, I'm fine. I'm an emotional person.
No,
I can't help it.
With old age.
Would you like a cup of
It's,
coffee?
No, thank you.
Actually,
I wouldn't.
Down anyway.
ask him some about what he did for like recreation when he was off duty, and I mean, just look through there because you did a wonderful job. It's almost like you knew the questions she was going to ask before she asked them.
Well, I didn't know what to expect to be about
All
today.
right.
It's
Everybody can
fine.
probably hear what she was saying anyway.
What did you do for recreation when you were off duty?
Well, being in a place, you mean from when, like over at Borneo?
Mm-hmm.
me and a couple of my buddies would roam around. When we first landed, it was pretty bad situation. There was dead Japanese everywhere. And up on the hills was some gun emplacements, which they were pushed out of. So we wanted to explore. So we went off exploring a lot of times. And there was stuff that I wished I'd have grabbed, but I didn't. I got an ammunition box and put stuff in it that I shouldn't have, like live ammunition, which when we got married, my wife told me, get rid of that, so it ended up in the Mississippi River. I don't know, but I sent the box home with a lot of stuff in it, odds and ends, and nobody questioned what you sent home. I mean, it just went. But we just kind of roamed around, and this one buddy of mine, he bought a Jap rifle off of the Australian. The Australians selling everything all the time, come through our camp. I just bought this off of the Jap. Would you be interested in buying? So I wasn't interested in that stuff, but this kid from Oklahoma, he got this Jap rifle.
I made him throw the ammunition in.
The war was still going on, but so we went up to the front line, well, not the front line, but hitchhiked with some Aussies, and he wanted to try this Jap rifle out, which we had all kind of ammunition. So we went back in the Borneo was, I don't know how it is now, wooded, rugged country. So we went back in the woods, and bang, bang, shooting that Jap rifle off, having fun. Kids, you know, how kids. So when we come back out, along come the road, here comes a Jeep with an Australian officer and 3 or 4 passengers in here. He says, here we come along the road. He pulled up. He, was that you blokes popping off back in the brush? This kid says, yeah, well, I got this Jap rifle from an Aussie guy, and he says, oh, we want to shoot it a little bit. He says, you get on that road and get on back to where you belong and don't come up here again. So we did. We didn't come back. But we got along fine with the Aussies. They were good people. We liked them. And they liked us, I guess. There was some conflict. But it was good. They had movies. Practically every night we got a big place where they built a big movie screen. They had movies, war or not. And the Aussies flocked to it. And so it was just general living, and we had water was always chlorinated water, because there was a risk for malaria and all that stuff, you know. So they had Coca-Cola, and it was syrup in gallon jugs. You could buy it, what we call ship service. It's like the canteen in the Army. It's ship store. And we go get a jug of, there's 6 people to the tent when we got our camp built. Somebody always had a jug of Coke. Put about that much Coke in your canteen cup, fill it up with that chlorinated water. Chow Hall had an ice making machine, and everybody had a bucket. You go over, and somebody always had a bucket full of ice sitting in the thing with a tarp over it. That's what we used. We drank a lot of that. And we took pills to keep from getting malaria. They call Atabrine. They give you a little bottle every so often. You're supposed to take one a day. Made you turn kind of yellow to your skin. Plus, we got sunburned or suntanned. And about all we wore was a pair of shoes and a pair of shorts when we were off duty. And my duty consisted of guard duty. We were gunner's mates and security. So also, warn you kids about this, If you don't smoke, don't. Cigarettes were 5 cents a pack, but you had to buy them by the carton. They gave you what they called a chit, it was a little piece of paper. You could buy a carton a week, that's all you was allowed. So I didn't smoke, never ever did. When boot camp come along, I thought I'd try to smoke because everybody else did, but I didn't like it, so I didn't do it. So over there, carton cigarette cost you 50 cents. 10 packs for 50 cents. Go down, go into the ship's store and buy your cigarettes with your chit. You could buy anything you wanted with cigarettes. They'd come through with a bunch of bananas or something like that, great big bananas. Okay, 3 cigarettes, or whatever. Other stuff that I wasn't interested in. Aussies come, so yeah, that's a souvenir for 2 packs of cigarettes. I didn't want their stuff. So, about the second week I went down there and these natives would come up that ship, so they'd infiltrate everywhere. They were just free. Come out of ship service with cigarettes. Sell cigarettes. 10 guilders. Well, a guilder was 50 cents. $5. Well, yeah. Got $5 for a carton of cigarettes. About 2 weeks later, cigarettes, 20 guilders. $10 for a carton of cigarettes. Unbelievable. So some of the guys says, well, you guys that don't smoke ought to give us your rations. They wanted more. Well, yeah, $10. So, but if you don't smoke, keep away from it. It ain't good for you. It's poison. That's how come I'm living this long. I don't smoke or drink. And it ain't good for you. There's another thing that saddens me to unbelievable. We didn't have that dope problem back then. We weren't in it and didn't hear about it. Wasn't interested in it. I never ever heard about it. But as far as smoking and drinking, don't. It's not good for you. You ever watch Judge Judy? She gets these kids in there, and I'll tell you, the world has gone crazy. They want to go out, party. Where were you at? Oh, well, we met at this bar. Ain't there another place? Ain't there any other places? Don't do it. I mean, who am I to tell you? But your folks are telling you, you shouldn't do it.
Did you tell them about your ship home? How you were crowded, that ship when you come home?
Pardon me?
Yeah, he
How
did.
crowded it was when you came home. The ship,
Oh, you mean that carrier?
how everyone was sitting on top of each other.
Okay, we pulled in Pearl Harbor.
It was awful.
Uniform of the day was dress whites. Everybody wound up on top of the flat top. It was a small carrier. You probably aware what a aircraft carrier escort. They call them escort carriers. It's a big carrier, big ship. So this executive officer, they was docking this carrier, and I don't know how many thousand people on top of that flight deck. I was one of them. Flight deck started going like this. Exec was up there. He was a tough old Navy man. Half of you men stop, walk over on the other side of that deck. He says, we don't want to upset this ship. Well, they wouldn't have, but I mean, walk. So we did. It's great. Because they were way up off the water. That was just one little funny story, I guess.
I think he had fun.
Well, she'd like to hear the story about when we was in Australia. 4 of us guys, good buddies from Borneo. We went on Liberty together, not knowing what, in Sydney. And Sydney had a amusement park. There's a great big iron bridge that goes across, you always see. Well, you take the ferry to go wherever you're going. Well, anyway, we went on this, they put us ashore, and we took $10 a piece, and we was going to change it for Australian money. Instead of going to a bank, we went to a hotel. And this Aussie behind the desk, Yeah, I can change that for you. So he figured up and probably cheated us, but we didn't know. Gave a lot of money. Had a little pocket right here. So we went to an ice cream store where we, you know, which is kids. And the gal behind the counter, this one guy, called him Arkansas, his name was Bob Wadley. He was a couple years older than us. He's kind of keeping things in line for us younger guys. He's gonna fix us up with a date. So he started talking to this gal. He said, you know where we get a couple gals to go out with? Well, she said, I got 2 sisters home, and I got a friend. Fix you all 4 of you up. Okay. So this one kid, he's from Washington, D.C., his name was Billy Still. He paid and had a handful of money, and some of them fell on the floor. He says, God bless America. She says, you'll be finding out about Australia before you leave. So she called her sisters and picked us up with a date for the night. I had the best looking one. But so anyway, we went
all
to,
have fun.
and my best buddy, he was from California, he was a good buddy of mine. He got one of the sisters, and she was a wild one. You kids don't know what that is, a wild gal. So they took us over to this, kind of like a Coney Island, big amusement park. And we had this Australian money, something called florins. They were worth 33 cents a piece, third of $1. And we had a lot, we didn't know what the money was worth, so we handed over to the gal to pay for himself. Let's go on the roller coaster. Okay? So we got in two from the back, this big long thing. So this one, her name was Betty. She was a couple of seats up from me, and this other gal. And sign says, do not stand up in seats. So what's Betty do? So we went, took the whole trip, come back down. Let's go again. Well, we didn't get out, and there was a couple people standing there waiting, figured they was going on. So we went again, and they come back, stopped again. This English sailor, him and his girlfriend were waiting there. She said, let's go one more time. So he says, well, how long are you going to go? How long are you going to ride? She said, till our money runs out. Well, when will that be? She held that handful of floor and never! When we come back, they was gone. So they like to hear them stories. I don't, I shouldn't tell them. But.
Good thing he came home when he did.
So the kids think that's funny. I mean, Anyway, we enjoyed our trip to Australia too. So.
He had fun.
And I tell you, them was the best times. No, I'm not saying the best time of my life, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my service. As far as being afraid, the good times offset the bad.
It was awful. Yeah, really.
And there was some bad times.
You gotta remember
But,
the good things.
Really, I think, and don't be mad at me for thinking this, I think when every kid in the country graduates from high school or gets to be a certain age, it'd be a good idea if they would have 2 years service. Don't let me make you mad now. It's a good experience. They give you good discipline. A lot of the kids didn't like it. It didn't hurt them a bit. But really, it's a good experience. And I don't know. I'm just saying what I think. I'm probably wrong. But this is our country. Take care of it.
Well, I think it makes you grow up. Two of our kids were
It does.
girls.
I was just on the verge of turning 20 when I got out of the service. I felt like I was a man. I mean, I didn't feel like I was a kid anymore. So, and like I say, I'm all for welcoming these guys home like they do when they come home, but we didn't get any welcome. We just disappeared into the mainstream of people. So, a year ago, my daughter talked me into going on that honor flight. I didn't know they'd give you a shirt, but they did. One of these. But, so I thought I was going to be warmer, otherwise I wouldn't have wore this. So I had this printed out, just what they give you. And so I went on that and out of Springfield instead of Tri-City. I felt like I'd been welcomed home. Like I say, I'm an emotional person, as you've seen, but I can't help it. I feel like I do. I didn't have I wasn't a hero. I was there. We didn't even think about being a veteran. It never entered our mind about being a war veteran. But I'm glad I went. I had some friends that they run to, I shouldn't say this because you kids are farm people, but they got farm to firma, and I know several of them that wish they'd ever gone instead of going to the farm. But somebody had to go to the farm, and I don't hold that against anybody. That was their thoughts. But I'm glad I went. And so that's my story.
Ashley, ask him about sending mail home and stuff like that.
How did you keep in touch with your family and friends back home?
Letters, mail. You had free, you just wrote free up in where the stamp goes. And it was all free mail. I was a little lax about mailing, sending, but I did try to do them. I think I might have had one of them letters to some of my relations in one of them things just to show what it was, But, yeah, we just mailed. We didn't have cell phones. It's a different world.
Did you have a large family? Did you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
I was one of 5.
One of 5.
I was the second of 5.
Did any of your other siblings serve in the war?
No.
No, just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad was in World War I. My mom had a brother that was killed in World War I, and my wife had her dad's brother was killed in World War I. And we come from a lot of Swedish background, both of us. So, I mean, our ancestors come from Sweden, both sides, a lot of them. So, but this is our country.
I'm just as much German as I am Swede, though.
That's fine.
Some of them came from Germany.
Do you guys have any other questions that you can think of that you want to ask?
How was Hawaii? How was Hawaii?
We loved it. It was kind of a rest and recreation for 3 months after we got out of that Borneo. We enjoyed it. Of course, it's different too. That was 65 years ago we was there. And they had, if I remember right, there was 2 hotels on Waikiki Beach. One of them was the Royal Hawaiian, which was a big pink building. I think it's still there. And then there was another, maybe there was another, but you see pictures now and I don't know how you ever get to the beach. But we enjoyed it.
I'm going to ask, you guys probably need to go ahead and go to lunch because you're going to run out, but go ahead and leave that on. I've got a couple more questions I want to ask about. I'm a little interested, I'll let you guys say thanks and go on out. This is their lunch hour, so I'm gonna let them
Thank you
go.
so much.
But I've got a couple
Got a
more
granddaughter, a
questions.
great granddaughter named Ashley.
Oh,
I call her Abby.
yeah?
I mean,
Cameron
so-
is 14, 15.
Thank you for having me.
Ashley is
You too.
16, and Shelby is, I'm guessing, 14. She might be 15.
Good to see you kids.
What? Can you tell me a little bit about a gunner's mate? What exactly is that? What were you trained to do? I know that's not what you ended up doing, but
Well, the guns on ships, plus small arms, you took the whole course. You had to be prepared to repair, service, and operate the guns. And they went all the way up to, we didn't study any of the big guns, like the battleship guns. 5-inch guns was a big, we studied because that's what destroyers had, and the main bunch of them had, really. But that was our main, we took 4 months of that, intensive training on it.
what were your first two choices? Do you remember? You said that was your third choice that you got.
I wanted to be an aviation ordnance or aviation electrician. So they figured, you don't belong there. But I enjoyed it. It was a good occupation. So naturally, being gunner's mate, we did they take us on the rifle range, and they had what they called Mark I trainers for anti-aircraft fire. We'd get on them, and they had a big dome-shaped building to train you in, and did a lot of that because that was where gunner's mates were, I mean, you know. But that's what it was. So, being gunner's mates, they figured we'd be good security to me. So.
Well, what?
Mrs. Schmitz is bringing kids in there,
In where?
in the computer
Oh, I
lab.
forgot about that. Yeah, you go ahead and I'll go in there. Well,
I want to take some pictures of him.
yeah. Did you stop tape?
No?
Go ahead and stop tape.